What is meditation's true threat of solitude no one talks about? Tonight's lesson is drawn from the 47th verse of Yong-jig xuan-jue's The Song of Enlightenment. Let's chant. In a forest of nothing but sandalwood trees, where it is lush and remote lions dwell. In this sylvan wooded quiet, their room where they will. Other beasts, even birds, keep the distance. So let's explore this. Let's explore the metaphor. Imagine, if you will, you're seated to meditate. It's the Iron Age, so you have no clock with which to time your meditation session. What you do have is a plate full of dry rice, and in it you've placed 3 unlit sticks of incense. To the right is either a candle or an oil lamp, and between the two and a little to the back is a wee statue of the Buddha, or perhaps Bodhidharma. You light one incense stick, blow it out, let it burn, and place its unlit tip in the dry rice, and the dry rice holds it up. Burning one stick, and then the second stick, and then the third stick. If each stick burns for 20 minutes, you know you've set for an hour. But, being a lazy bastard, that rice is not pristine. It's full of the spent sticks of former incense. And to one who is imaginative, it might strike you as a forest of spent incense sticks. And in that quasi-forest of spent incense sticks, there is nothing. There is no animal. There is no great elephant. There is no scampering squirrel. It is lonely. And what a great metaphor that is for the solitude of meditation. In the cavern between our 2 ears, we could feel a blessed release from something that was described quite eloquently in the early 70s by the group America, who sang Horse with No Name. In the desert, you can't remember your name, for there ain't no one for to give you no pain. And man, I first heard that in 1st grade, and I still get chills over that. That just blows my mind. And yes, humans can be annoying as hell, and enjoying, if not a physical separation from the presence of humans, then a metaphorical separation as we close our eyes and sit in meditation. But that solitude is short-lived, for soon we feel tapping upon our shoulder the claw of an inner demon. Not armed with fangs, but with our own foibles, our own shortcomings, real or feared or imagined. The inner demons of difficulties present and delights absent. The key to meditation, the key to determining whether a meditation is effective or not, is not determined by the presence or absence of these inner demons, but by what we do with them. A very wise psychotherapist once said, the test of character is not the grandiosity of plan A, but what we do when our only plan is plan B. And so similarly, anybody can feel wonderful when they are backstroking in a vast ocean of bliss. What do we do when our metaphoric inner demons are shaking us by the lapels like a French au pair? I would recommend 3 things, or 3 lines of defense. The first one is inhalations, is that every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access the sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. That's the region that correlates with our rib cage. It is not wired for either mind blanking nor active concentration. It is wired to simply notice, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. That is mindfulness. And in mindfulness, we can notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We can notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. What do we do with such things? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system. It too is ensconced within our spinal cord, in both the lower lumbar region correlating with our pelvis, and the tippy top of our cervical region correlating with either the top of our neck or the bottom of our brain. Operating in as a team, they make possible physical relaxation and mental release that is known as meditation. Now, if someone doesn't practice this, if someone insists on stomping and snorting and pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps and practicing active concentration and active contemplation, they're going to feel cranky. They're going to feel intolerant. They're going to feel the need to contrive a semblance, an analog of empathy or love or compassion. But if we've learned our lesson and instead practice the mindfulness and meditation that are inherent, that are latent with each inhalation and exhalation, then instead of one's blood pooling or gathering or coalescing in one's fearful and aggressive amygdala, instead of that, one's blood collects in the anterior cingulate gyrus just behind the forehead, the seat of empathy, the hub of our mirror neurons. The highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. And when our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from love's centered spontaneity, then we are truly living heaven on earth. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. I know, promises, promises. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Come, let us celebrate Easy Proto-Dzogchen, the original teachings of Dzogchen, composed by Prahe Vajra, long before the minions of patriarchy could obscure it and hide it and tell us that its teachings were verboten. God Abdurje told us, or taught us, that we need not recitations to become Buddhas. However, I found that recitations can be useful as a mnemonic device. The entirety of the Buddha's path can be condensed down to just 8 steps. And it is my intention to explore these 8 steps in a really sustainable way before this live stream is through. So we're going to play with one opening chant. The first iteration is very literal. And by the way, this chant is known as Pathetic Bodhicitta and Enthusiastic Refuge. Bodhicitta is a fancy word for mindset of enlightenment. So this bit is in triplets, and this bit is just in monotone quarter notes. Same thing over here, triplets and monotone. Together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by taking refuge in the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So, the second fold of the Eightfold Path is wishing love, and we lovingly wish to liberate everyone from the tyranny of their hateful, greedy, and befuddled impulses. We are inferring that the tyranny of these impulses could be temporary. That is an inference of the first fold of the Eightfold Path, a view that supports letting go. What remains is enthusiasm. How are we going to accomplish this universal liberation? By taking shelter in the Buddha's example and instructions and students. These 3 items are so useful that over the centuries they earned the metaphoric nickname of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels, kind of like Aladdin's lamp. The second iteration of these same intentions is more concise and more figurative. And instead of using a triplet chant, we're going to use a bookend chant. And we're going to do so for 3 repetitions. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. Although these might sound like prayers, they are not. A petition to a real or imagined celestial entity makes of us a mewling, a squalling infant. However, recitation of intention merely strengthens the neural pathways that are useful to us upon the Buddha's path. Despite the insistence of elitists, mindfulness and meditation is known by many names: Satipasati, Chan, Dhyana, Proto-Zen, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Ati-yoga, Dzogchen, and Trekcho. In the words of Billy Joel, it's still rock and roll to me. As children, our first bicycle most likely came with training wheels, which, although were clunky, got the job done. Similarly, this evening's first meditation is going to be ungainly. During our inhalation, let's silently and mentally recite perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. During our exhalation, let's silently and mentally recite relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Now let us remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels, reducing the length of our contemplative exercise from 12 syllables per breath down to just 3. During our inhalation, please silently and mentally recite sitting tall. And during our exhalation, please silently and mentally recite relaxing. Thus generating a vertical traction between our tuchus and our head. During each of the following inhalations, please silently and mentally recite, notice this. During each exhalation, please silently and mentally recite, relaxing. As we mentioned during the opening lesson, our sympathetic nervous system makes mindfulness possible. Our parasympathetic nervous system makes meditation possible. These two are ensconced within our autonomic nervous system. But we also have a big old brain. And our brain can be an awful lot like an idiot savant, can't it? It's kind of like a child, sticky-fingered and enthusiastic, but incompetent. And so sometimes, just as a little kid might help daddy simply by holding the flashlight, similarly, we encourage our brain not to get in the way of awareness and acquiescence by giving it a simple task, such as silently and mentally reciting in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, that it might, thus aligning it with the function of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Now let us remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels, thus reducing the length of our contemplative exercise from 3 syllables per breath down to just 1. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite this. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite ease. This is, of course, the demonstrative pronoun, and ease is a monosyllabic verb which functions as a synonym of relax. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Please do not wait until the end of the live stream to ask your question, for by that point my brain will have turned into silly putty. Instead, for both our sakes, please strike while the iron is hot. And now that we have reached contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as General Leia Organa upon Ajahn Claus under the guidance of Luke Skywalker. One of my favorite teaching tools is the Buddhist archetype depicted on the just to the left of the center line of the page. Known in Sanskrit as described in Sanskrit with the words Samantabhadra Karamamudra, described in Tibetan as Kuntu Zong Po Kuntu Zong Mo Yab Yum. And described in English as a guy the color of the sky and a gal the color of a cloud. Doing the hibbity-dibbity. In the next several minutes, I look forward to exploring the lessons to be learned from their iconography. The 12th century Soto Zen Roshi Zenji Dzogchen taught that the very act of sitting in meditation is enlightenment. And contrary to the rigid mind, to the insistence of the rigid-minded, that is a metaphor whose meaning we are going to tease out in the next several minutes. In either the 3rd or the 6th century, Prahe Vajra, the first teacher of Dzogchen, insisted that enlightenment was not something we needed to reach for or strain for or accomplish. That we were already all good. Ironically, all good is an apt translation of Samantabhadra or Samantabhadri or Kuntu Zangpo or Kuntu Zangmo. And yes, we will tease that out in the next several minutes. As I mentioned several minutes ago, every time we inhale, we automatically access our sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. It did not evolve for either mind blanking or concentration. It did, however, evolve to notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Perhaps that is why Sky Guy and Cloud Gal are depicted as being naked. utterly vulnerable. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about a Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Please do not wait until the end to ask your questions. It is far better, for by the end I will be too tired to answer any questions. However, it is far better for you to strike while the iron is hot and ask your questions as soon, or type your questions as soon as they are heavy upon your heart. Let us review exhalation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we access the parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within both the lower lumbar region corresponding to the pelvis, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region corresponding either to the top of the neck or the bottom of the brain. This parasympathetic nervous system supports both our physical relaxation and our mental release. Think of it this way. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel less graspable. Or rather, our resistance to it could feel less graspable. It could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although is tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. Perhaps that is why Sky Guy and Cloud Gal are depicted as being translucent. Consider, if you will, the abandon with which Cloud Gal sports in tantric union. It can remind us of the superiority of spontaneity to contrivance. As the stability with which Sky Guy sits in the midst of tantric union reminds us that not all spontaneity is scattered. The highest spontaneity is centered effortlessly. due to the play of mindfulness and meditation. Yes, active concentration and contemplation can exhaust our prefrontal cortex and overstimulate our amygdala, helping us to present with the symptoms of depression and anxiety and aggression. Oh my. But when they are replaced with mindfulness and meditation, the blood mass shifts from our errant amygdala to our empathetic anterior cingulate gyrus. It has been said that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. And when our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from this centered spontaneity, our life can be heaven on earth. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Please do not wait until the end of the live stream, for by then I will be too tired and you will have forgotten the question. Rather, for the sake of both of us, strike while the iron is hot. We're going to shift our focus now to the 5 wisdoms. Those who are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel insist that the antidote to the 5 mental poisons is the 5 wisdoms, and then they scurry about trying to contrive them. However, those who are flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind recognize that when we bring our perception of any one of the 5 mental poisons into the path of relaxation and release, just as the philosopher's stone of yore is said to transform lead into gold, similarly, awareness and release can transform the 5 mental poisons into the 5 wisdoms. In a minute or two, I shall elaborate. How do we experience mirror-like wisdom? Simple. When during our inhalation we perceive aversion, aggression, annoyance, let me rephrase it. When we relax into our exhalation, whatever aggression, annoyance, or anger we experience during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Thus unlocking the experience of mirror-like wisdom. I'm sorry, yes, mirror-like wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving or greed or longing we experience during our in-breath could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, thus unlocking the door to the experience of discerning wisdom. When we relax into our exhalation, whatever befuddlements or turmoil or confusion we experienced during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. The experience of the wisdom of the basic space of all phenomena. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy or competitiveness we experience during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, all accomplishing wisdom. If you've just tuned in, during each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride or clinging we experienced during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Equalizing wisdom. let us turn our attention towards non-duality. During each inhalation, we perceive duality. Every time we relax into our exhalation, we can experience non-duality. Just as a bird requires both its wings to take to the skies, similarly, we need both the raw, messy vulnerability of mindfulness, as well as the gentle acquiescence of meditation, to drink deeply of nirvana. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of pleasurable emotions or painful emotions we might have experienced during our inhalation could collapse into the simple non-duality of simply labeling our experience as just emotion. As we relax into our exhalation, the inhalation's dualistic labels of malice or love could collapse into the non-dual label of simply intention. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic labels of wisdom or folly we might have experienced during our inhalation could now collapse into the non-dual label of thought. Let us seal this evening's practice with the two chants of kind ethics and the four immeasurables. The third, fourth, and fifth folds. Now let us recall the third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. And let us remember the interdependence and impermanence of the first fold of the Eightfold Path, as well as the wishing love of the second fold. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hate and craving and confusion freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to the tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.